Today on Eye on Northwest Politics, his cousin, Terrence Hayes, was killed by Portland police in a case that resulted in a $2 million settlement. Now the Portland Police Association is endorsing his candidacy for Portland City Council. I sit down with Terrence Hayes to talk about his candidacy and his experience with the criminal justice system. Plus, 2 attempts on former President Trump's life with just weeks to go before Election Day. Are Americans becoming desensitized to political violence? I talk one-on-one with hate group expert Dr. Randall Blazak about what we can do. And an iconic piece of Portland removed after being damaged during the demonstrations of 2020. But we could be getting closer to the return of the Thompson Elk statue to downtown. Eye on Northwest Politics starts now. Thanks for joining us. This is Eye on Northwest Politics. I'm Ken Boddy. Let's get right to your top political headlines. A decision on whether to build a music venue on Portland's Inner East Side is now in the hands of Portland City Council. Live Nation wants to build a 3,500-seat venue north of the Hawthorne Bridge. People for and against the project gave testimony last week, as many local musicians are concerned about the impact it will have on the local music scene. But Live Nation says local acts would get more opportunities to perform. Portland City Council will vote on the venue October 2nd. Construction could begin as soon as next year, and it could open as early as 2026. Local Native American tribes are taking a stand against offshore wind farming in southern Oregon. The Confederated Tribes of Coos, Lower Umpqua, and Siuslaw Indians are now suing the federal government. The suit claims the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management did not consider the environmental and cultural impacts or look into alternatives. 2 big wind energy projects are set to be auctioned on October 15th. And Senator Ron Wyden welcomed WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert to the Moda Center this week to announce a new team is coming to Portland. They joined team owners Lisa Bathal-Mirage and Alex Bathal on stage. The team will be the 15th in the WNBA. No word on a name yet. The owners say they will take submissions. The WNBA will make its debut in Portland in 2026. 98 candidates are running for the new Portland City Council in November. Every one of them has a story. However, few are as compelling as that of my first guest. Terrence Hayes is one of the 16 candidates running in the new Portland City Council District 1, which includes outer East Portland, east of I-205, and that includes Portland International Airport. Terrence Hayes' cousin, Terrence Hayes, was shot and killed by Portland police officer Andrew Hurst in 2017. Police say 17-year-old Terrence Hayes was a robbery suspect and had a replica handgun with him at the scene. A grand jury decided not to charge Officer Hurst, but in 2021, in a unanimous decision, Portland City Council voted to settle a lawsuit by the Hayes family for $2.2 million.
Our entire community is impacted. Families, doctors, nurses, neighbors, first responders, all of us.
Despite the settlement and his family tragedy, Terrence Hayes is being endorsed by the Portland Police Association, the union representing police officers. Terrence Hayes, welcome to Eye on Northwest Politics.
Thanks, Ken. I appreciate it.
How much did your cousin's death and the settlement, everything leading up to it, influence your decision to go into politics?
Yeah, so his death moved me to recognize that there is a bridge or a gap of knowledge and understanding between specifically Black communities and policing. We generally don't understand the laws and rules that govern the behavior of officers. When we take those type of losses, we feel them personally. And so I wanted to make sure that I understood how our city was ran, how our bureau practiced those type of engagements. And I wanted to be a part of change. So his death forced me to see our city in a different light and want to serve it in a way that we never see that type of interaction between officers and a 17-year-old kid again.
Considering your family's background and what you've been through in the criminal justice system, we'll talk a little bit more about that. How do you process the fact that the Portland Police Association is actually endorsing you in your run?
Well, it's interesting because for me, it means Portland should be excited, one, about my run, because I hope they are, but secondly, about how the PPA is now seeing the relationship between community and itself. I think community in Portland as a whole has historically felt like Portland police have been able to kind of hide behind what we say the blue shield. And I don't think they want to be there anymore. And I think when they look at a story like mine, they realize that they need somebody who's done the work in community, have experienced the highest level of loss, and is willing to still sit at the table to make sure we can be a better version of ourselves as far as the PPA going PPP.
When you talk about your work with criminal justice and dealing with criminal justice, you've been on a lot of boards and commissions, a lot of advisory positions in terms of dealing with criminal justice. Right. Just talk a little bit about that and why you decided that this was going to be a focus for you.
Yeah, so I wanted to make sure that I bring my lived experience to the table. I think over the last 4 to 6 years that the black narrative when it comes to criminal justice reform and the criminal justice system, it's kind of been ran by folks that don't always look like you and I. And I want to bring a unique perspective because most individuals like myself who's committed a crime, we want a better life, especially after we've been held accountable. We want a process and a road to live regularly. We don't want to check the box forever. So for me, it was like, I wanted to make sure that I was part of creating a pathway where formerly incarcerated people could not check that box again one day. Housing, employment, some of the most basic things that allow us to live in peace, folks that coming home don't have that. So I figured, look, I know how to go open my mouth. I know how to be a part of the discussion and engage. I want to represent a community of folks that generally don't have representation from a lived experience point of view.
You're running in District 1, which is outer southeast Portland, basically I-205 out to the Gresham line.
Right.
Are there any particular issues in that district specifically that you want to address if you're elected? Yeah,
so I want to make sure, the biggest thing for me is I want to make sure that, one, we have enough officers in our district. I remember doing a ride along with the Focus Intervention Task Force who deal with gun violence reduction in our community. And as I rode along, we stopped in East Precinct, and they told me there was only 4 cars on duty for East Precinct. Despite your view of police on either side of this argument, we have to know that it's problematic that we only have 4 squad cars to cover all of East Portland. So I want to make sure that we're building healthy relationships, that we can get a buy-in to policing again, well-trained, accountable police, and that our community can buy into that, and that we can get police in the streets. East Portland has been very clear about mainly 2 things. 1, they want responses from officers when they call for help. And 2, they want to answer to encampments, and RVs and these things like that, that they get to see and is impacted by their life, impacts their life every day.
Do you have any ideas about what to do about the encampments and the homeless that are on the streets?
Yeah, so for me, Ken, it's about making sure we have shelter for folks. There's been a narrative, in my opinion, when it comes to homeless, that homeless people are better off on the streets or in illegal encampments than they're all under shelter. I just don't buy into that. I believe everybody want to be sheltered. So I want to talk, I want to be involved with the joint office and the city to open up 2 shelters, city ran, in partnership with the county, 2 shelters in each district, 150 capacity, just at night somewhere for somebody to go. Charge their cell phone, have a cup of coffee, and go to sleep. I think we have to be very intentional. So in a base level, immediate response is, how do people sleep safely at night? And I think we can do that by opening a few shelters.
You talked about the fact that you have committed a crime in your past. As a matter of fact, when you were a teenager, the case is you shot somebody in the leg.
Right.
You were convicted of attempted murder.
I was.
Went to prison for that. But you fast forward, you were also part of the change in Oregon law where non-unanimous jury verdicts are no longer legal. So tell me how that progression has influenced your life today?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, Ken, because when you think about what restorative justice should lead to and the intentionality of like Senate Bill 819, which is to look at the impact of people who've committed crimes, been convicted, but need to be on the other side of that. When you don't have to check that box, when folks don't double look you because of a felony, when they can't go into a record book and see something that happened to you 20 years ago, they deal with you differently. It's a much different feeling when I can talk about my life with people without having to be stuck in the moment of prison. Because when I first came home, before my record was clear, that was always a reference point. Now when I talk about it, it's as triumph. I'm excited about the narrative because one, folks can't hold it against me anymore unless they're just being ridiculous. And two, I can help I've been a part of helping create a path for folks like me to have hope, especially during incarceration. They can look at my life and go, it's gonna be okay. When I come home, there's pathways that'll give me a chance. And instead of them seeing criminality as the first step path, they know that there's a journey for them on the other side of that.
We've only got about a minute left, but I do want to get to this. You run a company that's involved in graffiti abatement.
I do.
So what's the situation with graffiti in Portland right now, and how much work are you getting?
Right. No, I'm super busy, right, Kim? I'm super busy. I think the police in our city is focused on holding people accountable for it, but at the same time, it's graffiti. You can't chase a million individuals around who may spray paint. I think we still have a problem. In fact, I'm proposing that we increase by 30% our investment in cleaning up the city of graffiti and trash when I get into that space. So it ain't over yet. We got to be consistent, Ken, and we got to invest in a way to make our city beautiful again.
Terrence Hayes, thank you for being here on Eye on Northwest Politics.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
Next, hate speech and political violence. Why is there so much extremism in our politics right now? And can we as citizens do anything about it? We speak with hate crimes expert Professor Randall Blazak about efforts to tone things down here in the Pacific Northwest. We'll have that conversation after the break. Great job.